So welcome, and thank you for joining me for our 6th class of our 6-week series of mindfulness strategies for stress. And today we're going to be talking about compassion and loving kindness meditation, which is a classic meditation, but also self-compassion, which is so important, and also a little bit about continuing the practice going forward. I mentioned before, but I'll remind you all that I'm going to be doing a 7th class, and I'll send out an invitation for that on December, I think it's December 10th, but I have that in one of the slides here. So anyway, let's go forward. So just to take a quick pause, as we often do to start these, we'll do 3 breaths for a pause, which is a very simple, easy practice. First breath is just feeling, or set of breaths, feeling the breath itself. The second is feeling into the body and being kind to the body. And the third is kindness to yourself. So it fits in nicely with today's lesson. So just settle in a little bit. You can find a posture that's comfortable, but again, this is one of those on-the-go practices that you could be doing anywhere, anytime, in any position. So first, we just take a nice deep breath, feel the breath itself as it enters and leaves the body. Just really get in touch with the breath to help bring you into the present moment through that home base of the breath. Then another deep mindful breath, this time focusing on the body. Feel the body as you breathe in, feel the body settle as you breathe out, feel the body anchored however you're sitting or whatever position you're in, feel your feet on the floor, and maybe also just tune into what does the body need in the moment. Does it need some water or food, or does it need to relax, release tension? What does the body need? How can you be kind to the body itself? Now we'll take a third deep mindful breath and just focus on yourself. And first of all, maybe give yourself some kudos for being here, for taking this time for yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back for all the hard work you do, all the many tasks that you take care of, taking care of yourself and your family, whoever, taking care of your work. But really just to remember to be kind to yourself. It's such an important ingredient to all this. We'll talk a little bit about self-compassion. So that's it. That's 3 breaths, and you can finish just by, if your eyes were closed, you can open them up. That's, as I say, just a really quick, easy practice to do, something that you can try anytime, anywhere. So let's just process a little bit. Last week we talked about mindful ways to integrate mindfulness into our daily work lives and just daily life in general. So you could have done any formal practice during the week. And then we also talked about mindful driving, pauses, breaks, meetings, and also, of course, communication, being as mindful as we can when we're listening and talking to others. So just wanted to kind of find out, how did that go for you last week? And how is it going overall? Part of that was I did send out a plan, a mindfulness plan, and we'll cover that in a minute. But just how did your last week's practice go? You can put something into the chat, or certainly small enough. If you want to speak up, you can do that. So whatever you're most comfortable with. How was last week's formal and informal practices? Okay, we have a chat here. So more cognizant this week of doing the little deep breaths when washing hands. Good. So that's a good informal practice, of course. But the breath you can integrate. It's a good lesson. You can integrate it with anything, washing hands, any of those informal practices and formal practices as well. My formal practice is going well, and I actually utilize the mindful work tips a lot. Great. Good to hear that. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, those are all those little tricky things that we can do to remind us to be mindful. That I think is one of the biggest things to get over the hurdle of just forgetting, and life gets in the way and we get wrapped up in all the to-dos of the day and we just forget about taking these mindful moments, mindful pauses. So try to find something that works for you, whatever it is. I like those suggestions that you just commented on. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments or questions? And as you can see, I am going to have a 7th class. I usually do this, kind of find it a nice way. We'll do this. It's 4 weeks later, so it's going to be on a Tuesday, the 10th, same time, and I'll send out an invite so you have that on your calendar. And what we do is we kind of touch base a month later and see how it's going. Are you able to keep up some of the practices? If so, what were some of the ways that you were able to do that? And what were some of the challenges? What were some of the things that you found it difficult to keep going? And in that, hopefully we can help reinforce those practices so that you can make it more of a routine and a habit. Also, just want to, if you don't know about this, I do a monthly refresher class already. It's every month, second Wednesday of the month. So actually tomorrow we're having a class. If you want to join that, you can join on LMS to get the Zoom, or just let me know. I can forward the invite to you. So it's tomorrow from 12:30 to 1:15, and they're kind of similar to these classes. I usually have a theme. We're going to talk a little bit about VUCA, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, and how breathing can help us kind of refocus our attention and increase our awareness and stabilize the emotional ups and downs. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow. If you want to join that, just let me know, or again, sign up on LMS. Just if you do LMS, just search for Mindfulness Refresher. You'll see that. So are these practices becoming part of your daily life? I hope they are, to at least more than in the beginning. Again, that's kind of one of the biggest challenges that people face. So the mindfulness plan that I sent out, just a reminder, kindliness towards ourselves and others, an essential ingredient, which equals kindfulness. It's one of the biggest predictors of success. In other words, being kind to ourselves, not being too hard on ourselves, not letting that critical inner critic come up. And that's, again, it's a good reminder of what we'll be talking a little bit about today. But so your mindfulness plan, so what can you do to balance those? Are both really important, the formal practices of all those. We had the sitting meditation, the body scan, thought and emotion meditations. The rain practice could be considered a formal meditation. Any of those, that you can, you don't have to do them all. The mindfulness plan listed all of them on that little chart, but maybe just pick one or two that you really resonate with and that you find helpful, and pick those. And when are you going to do those? Hopefully you have maybe found a good time of the day, a good place to do them, whatever works for you. And then the mindful pauses, which are kind of informal practices, but a little bit different, but simple pauses, usually 2 to 3 minutes. We've practiced these along the way. I think those are good to also integrate into your plan. And then the informal practices. Whatever it is, all those routine practices that we've gone over, whether it's, washing the dishes, washing your hands, doing the laundry, paying mindful attention while we're doing that. Mindful eating, mindful coffee, mindful walking, all can be considered, sort of informal practices. And so what are some of those that you might do to, again, reinforce that throughout the workday and into the rest of your day as well? Did any of you try that? Maybe fill out that plan a little bit, and if so, how did it, is that something that you found helpful to kind of chart out? Anybody wants to comment on that? I'd love to hear how that was for you. So today we're talking about one of the traditional practices of meditation in this style of meditation that we do, and it's called metta meditation, or sometimes loving kindness meditation. And as you can see here from this quote by Sharon Salzberg, a very well-known meditation instructor, loving kindness isn't the same as passion or romantic love, and it's not sappy sentimentality either. As I've said, we don't necessarily like or approve of everyone to whom we offer loving kindness, but focusing our attention on inclusion and caring creates powerful connections that challenge the idea of us versus them world by offering a way to see everyone as us. And you'll see how that kind of plays out in the meditation, which we'll do in a moment. But before I move on to that, also just there is a video link here. There's a bunch of links in today's lesson, so you might want to check these out if you have time. But there's this video by Shauna Shapiro, and she's a psychologist and a researcher, and she started to study how mindfulness actually makes a difference in our compassion for ourselves and our compassion for others. And she's actually done research studies on this. Very interesting. And in fact, the answer is yes. Mindfulness does increase our ability to be compassionate and to tune into the needs of others, but also, again, to tune into what we need as well. And it's that kind of balance that's so important. So let's do the first practice for today. It's a loving kindness practice. And it's a little different than some, but we do start in the same way. We start by just gathering our attention. We start by focusing on the breath and our body, and we get a little bit centered, a little bit calm, a little bit into a state of mindful presence. And then we go into the mindful, rather the loving kindness messages. And all you have to do is listen along and kind of see how that works. All right, we have a comment here about the plan. I have my routine. When I looked at the plan, I think I might need to try different types of practices. Okay, so, well, you can sort of see that there are a bunch to choose from, and you might try different ones if it helps your overall practice. So you might be at a point where you've kind of gotten used to some formal practices or informal, and you're ready for something else. And that's kind of how my practice has gone over the years. And I've kind of tried into different things. And that's, of course, I listen to a lot of different types of meditations just to kind of learn and gather information. So I'm always trying different ones. And I find that a kind of a good way to kind of keep up the interest and the novelty of some of them. So yeah, so try some different ones. And this one might seem a little different to you. So let's begin. So we begin, as usual, by closing the eyes or just resting them comfortably, perhaps with a downward, unfocused gaze. Find a position that's comfortable for you. You can bring your awareness to the touch of your body as it sits. Feel the weight of your body in the chair. Find a nice, comfortable position. And just take a moment to settle in. As you feel into the body and feel that sense of presence in the body, feel the body breathing and Maybe take a few deep breaths. While you're breathing deeply, relax the shoulders, relax the stomach muscles, the muscles in the face and jaw. Wherever else you might notice a little tension, just let it go as best you can. And bring your attention back to the breathing. Just let the breath now be natural and easy. And just take a moment or two to continue following the breath flowing in and out of the body, and maybe zero in on a spot where you feel the breath most easily as your kind of focal point. And whenever you get distracted, whenever the mind kind of carries you off, that's okay. This is important. We don't want to give ourselves a hard time when that happens. But when you feel distracted, when thoughts pop up or whatever distraction comes up that pulls your attention, notice that, and then simply bring your attention and focus back to the breathing. So, maintaining this mindful awareness, take a moment to think about kindness and call to mind someone you care about who easily arises your feelings of care and kindness. This person could be someone you love or feel grateful for, could even be an animal or a pet. And just think about what you appreciate about this person or pet. And let the thought of this person fill you with positive thoughts and feelings and kindness. Once you're kind of in touch with those positive feelings and kindness, make a wish for the sincere happiness of that person. And think to yourself, and kind of say these phrases to yourself. May you be safe. May you be well in mind, body, and spirit. May you always have fulfillment and peace. And establish that wish firmly in your thoughts. And I'll repeat them. May you be safe. May you be well in mind, body, and spirit. May you have fulfillment and peace. And allow yourself to be filled with feelings of kindness and goodwill towards this person. And just take a moment to rest in those positive feelings. And now imagine that you're sitting next to this person or animal that you care about, and include yourself in your feelings of kindness and goodwill. And make the wish, may we be safe. May we be well in mind, body, and spirit. May we have fulfillment and peace. And again, just kind of rest in those messages to yourself and this other person. And now just focus on yourself, making the wish, may I be safe. May I be well in mind, body, and spirit. May I have fulfillment and peace. Sometimes it helps to put your hands gently on your heart, or even kind of hug yourself or hold your hands together, just kind of as a gesture so that you kind of feel that physical sense of touch. And remember, if your mind wanders or you become distracted, just gently bring your attention back to your breathing and to these feelings of kindness and goodwill. And with these feelings, firmly in your thoughts, remember that everyone wants to feel safe and healthy and have positive experiences and happiness. And with this in mind, think of someone to whom you feel kind of neutral, maybe someone you don't really know that well, someone you neither really like or dislike. It could be someone maybe you see at the store or in the neighborhood or just out and about. And just picture them in your mind and try to genuinely wish for the happiness of that person. Thinking to yourself, may you be safe. May you be well in mind, body, and spirit. May you have fulfillment and peace. And with these feelings of kindness in our thoughts, think about somebody that you have feelings of negativity or dislike. Maybe someone you get a little bit frustrated with or who challenges you. And picture them in your mind and try to expand the feelings of kindness and goodwill to include that person as well. And make the wish that they also have these positive experiences and happiness. So again, think to yourself with this person in mind. May you be safe. May you be well in mind, body, and spirit. May you always have fulfillment and peace. And now we're going to expand these feelings of kindness and goodwill to greater circles. It could include all your coworkers. It could include all your family members. Kind of all the people in your world, okay? And with the same messages sending out to them. May you all have be safe and happy and have positive experiences. Be well in mind, body, and spirit, and have fulfillment and peace. And we can even expand that further to include all living beings in the whole world. The world can certainly use this today, right? So let's just kind of expand our awareness to include the whole world, all living beings, and sending the same messages. May you be safe. May you be well in mind, body, and spirit. May you always have fulfillment and peace. And just rest in that feeling of kindness and goodwill for all beings. And now let all your thoughts and images dissolve like a cloud in the sky, and just let your mind rest for a moment. Just kind of noticing how this experience and practice has been. And when you're ready, gently bring your attention back to the touch of your body on your seat and open your eyes as we finish that loving kindness meditation. All right, so as you can see, a little bit different. If you've never done that before, it's different, although we start with the same mindful awareness, but I'd love to hear what you thought of that. If anybody has any comments, please feel free to share them, put them into the chat, what that was like for you. Sometimes people find it interesting to compare, what was it like to send those messages to somebody neutral or to somebody you have trouble with? It was a little bit challenging. But then also the idea of expanding to all beings or to all the folks in our circle. So yeah, love to hear. That's another practice. You mentioned you might want to try to expand some of the practices. This could be one. It is on that meditation page. I'll show those links again before we close, but it's there. And I have another one too, another brief one that we'll try before we go. But the idea of that is to make space for ourselves, giving ourselves permission to let go of self-judgment for a minute, and approach the world and all the people in it with more compassion. Research shows that when we practice self-compassion, we're less likely to feel anxious and stressed, more likely to feel happy and resilient. And it can even help with our heart rate, reduce inflammation, and improve sleep. So we're going to turn to self-compassion now and kind of bring those together. Yes, good to expand to the world awareness and self in the world. Good. Felt more attentive during this practice. Typically, I find myself and thoughts wandering, but today with this practice, I was calmer, more focused. That's interesting. That's a great comment. So that might be one when we have a little bit more focus in the type of meditation rather than just kind of focusing on the breath perhaps or the body, that might give you a little bit more ability to focus in. So that's a good comment. So self-compassion, 3 elements of self-compassion. To me, the heart of it is mindfulness. So again, this is kind of another definition. Mindfulness is a non-judgmental, receptive mind state where we observe thoughts and feelings as they are without trying to suppress or deny them. So even when we're having trouble, or we're in a state of pain or suffering, we can feel compassion for it and for ourselves at the same time. And what we're learning in mindfulness is that we try not to be over-identified with those. We try not to get caught up and swept away in those, because that's where we get into trouble, right? We get into trouble when we sort of begin to dwell and ruminate on some of those things that are going wrong and that we're not happy with. And of course, we've had so many of those in the outside world. But there's also so many things that are going on in our own personal lives internally that sometimes it brings up feelings of difficulty and pain and suffering. So the first step is to be aware of that, and to be aware of that without automatically pushing it away, because that's the natural tendency. When we feel those kinds of difficulties, we usually want to push them away. That's why I asked you in one of the classes, I forget which one of the informal practices was to notice unpleasant experiences. And that's part of that, to notice what our natural tendency is when something difficult is happening, but then also to notice that we have a choice. We don't have to automatically respond to that we can choose to step back from that and not over-identify with that particular situation. But realize those, in a sense, we're the sky. Sometimes we put it that way. We're the sky of the awareness, and that those things are the weather patterns that are going through the sky. We're the sky. We don't have to get caught up in the weather patterns. We don't have to get necessarily directly affected. We can pull back from that. And then the next step is self-kindness, which we've talked a little bit about in several of the classes, but this is really so important here, is that being as warm and understanding towards ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, as we would our best friend or a loved one or someone in our family. So sometimes we're pretty hard on ourselves, right? Sometimes we can be, that inner critic naturally comes up, and that again is one of those conditioned patterns. And that's why we look at our thoughts. That's the from that 3rd class, and our emotions in the 4th class. It's important that we're aware of those things, that when we are kind of beating ourselves up, to turn that into, what would you say to your best friend or to a family member who's going through the similar situation? What would you say to them? And try to say that to yourself. And then the 3rd element is common humanity. In other words, nobody gets through this life without difficulties, challenges, and suffering, right? Everybody goes through it. And in fact, when you think about the billions of people on this island planet of ours, there's probably many, many, many people who are going through very similar circumstances as we are. So point being is that we're not alone in our suffering. And sometimes when we're in it, in the middle of it, you can't see the forest for the trees. We're so identified with it, we get caught up into it, and we forget, and it sort of feels like it's all happening to just me. But if we try to expand that to realize that everyone goes through these kinds of challenges, everyone at times in their life has difficulties. Everyone has some difficulties similar to yours. And so we can remind ourselves, and we don't become quite so overly identified in that way. We're all human. So there are some nice little videos. Kristin Neff is one of the leading researchers when it comes to self-compassion. So she talks about these. If you want to dive into it a little bit further, this is a 6-minute video, this first one. And then she has a 2-minute self-compassion tips. And there's a nice little video from Positive Psychology on self-compassion and your daily holiday, taking care of yourself. And then there's a nice article as well if you wanted to do some further reading on the 6 steps to self-acceptance. And that's kind of really what we're talking about. So for the next practice, we're going to try to balance it, because I think sometimes we have trouble balancing and feeling compassion. I think it's easy to feel compassion for others, for many of us. It's easy to try to turn our attention towards what can we do to help someone else. Not as easy to do that for ourselves. So this idea of giving and receiving compassion is going to be in this next brief practice, compassion breathing, we call it. So you're going to be breathing in for you and out for, oh, I wrote that wrong. So it's supposed to be in for me and out. Well, okay, in for me and out for you. So in for me and out for another is what that really means. So with this practice, we'll just do this kind of briefly, but it's one that I think can be very, very helpful. So closing the eyes again, finding a comfortable position, just taking a moment to recenter, maybe taking a couple of deep breaths, relaxing the body and the mind, feeling the breath go in and out, feeling the body in the chair, anchoring and grounding you. And what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on the in-breath. And every time we breathe in some sense of nourishment for you. What is it that you need today? Okay, what nourishment or nurturing or replenishment would be helpful to you? And breathe on each in-breath, kind of breathe that into your body and into your mind and into your heart. Every time you breathe in that sense of care and compassion for yourself. Do that for a few more cycles, breathing that, whatever it is that you would find. It might be peace or calm or de-stressing, or it might be caring for yourself for something that you're going through. Whatever it is, just breathe that in for you. Now we turn our attention to the out breath, and this time think of someone in your life that is maybe going through some struggles or maybe having some difficulties. Bring that person to mind, and with each out breath, send out a sense of care and compassion and kindness to that person. And if you know what they need, what they might need, you can get a little bit more specific. Every time you breathe out, kind of send that message to them. Kind of like we did before. May you have peace, may you have calm, may you be free from suffering, whatever it is. But do that with each out breath. kind of sending them that signal, and even imagining them receiving it. Every time you breathe out, you can even visualize sort of a beacon of light with that message going to that person and them receiving it. And the final step, the last step of it, simply is to bring them together. So as we breathe in that care and compassion for yourself. As you breathe out, send it out to that person or other persons. You can include other people if you like. So breathe in for you, breathe out for others. In for you, out for others. A couple more times. In and out. Okay, and then you can continue this if you had time. You could certainly continue this for longer. But for now, let's just, in the interest of time in the class, we can finish. You can open your eyes as we finish that. And just again, notice what that's like. That compassion breathing, kind of balancing the breath and messages of care and kindness for yourself and for others. And again, love to hear if you have any thoughts or comments about what that was like for you. Now, I'm going to move on. This particular link goes to a meditation by Jon Kabat Zinn called Choiceless Awareness. Basically, what that kind of comes down to is, in most of the meditations that we've done so far, we've had kind of a focus. We've either put our attention on our breath or on a body scan or on our thoughts or on compassion. And with choiceless awareness, what we do with this is we start with that sort of focused awareness, but then we open up and just let kind of whatever is happening in our experience flow through us. And without kind of getting caught up into it, without engaging it like we did with thoughts and emotions, but just kind of noticing what's happening in our awareness in the moment. And without choice, just noticing that here's a sound, here's a thought, here's a body sensation, here's an emotion, here's a breath that we can re-anchor on, whatever it is. It's choiceless awareness. It's really kind of a unique experience. So this is another one that you can try. And actually, we're going to do some of that in that 7th class in December. I'm going to show you a couple of other broader kind of open awareness kinds of practices. But if you want to try that ahead of time, you can click into that link there. It'll take you to a YouTube where he leads that meditation. So wanted to include this quote because sometimes we think, we have to be getting this just right, and it's not really that way. As Sharon Salzberg says, often people think, I don't have the right kind of mindfulness or the right level of concentration. Progress, though, is not about levels. It's about frequency. And that's what I've been talking about, right? It's about trying to get the amount of reps in, It's about frequency. If we can remember to be mindful, if we can add more moments of mindfulness, that makes all the difference. Countless times a day, we lose mindfulness and we become lost in reaction or disconnected from what is happening. But the moment we recognize that we've lost mindfulness, we have already regained it. That recognition is its essence, and we can begin again. So I think that's kind of profound if we think of it that way, that it's really just this ongoing practice. And that's why we do practice, so that we can, again, continue to notice things that'll begin to arise more naturally. And it's just these small moments many times over the course of the day. Now, just as a way of kind of maybe the little bit of inspiration, sometimes we have been aware of going back to when you signed up for the class and what your original intention was, whatever that might have been. Maybe it was to help with the stress in your life, or maybe it was just to gain a little bit more calm and ease or relaxation. But this is another link that you might watch by Tara Brach. And even it's a longer total video, but even the 4 minutes from the 2.5 minute mark to the 6.5 minute mark, she talks about happiness. And she talks about different kinds of ways that we can feel content and happy. And often the happiness in life is contingent upon circumstances that are going on in our lives and about how we can achieve certain, even just checking things off our to-do list makes us feel better, right? But the next level of happiness, if you will, is being happy or content for no reason. And I would submit that the more you practice and the more you continue with this path, after a while, it'll begin to really sink in, and you will get this sort of different level, and you'll begin to experience moments of peace and contentment without really looking for it. And that's kind of the beauty of it. It's not that we have to like reach for it and grasp for it. It just begins to come. And we realize that happiness is not something that we get once we've gotten that job or that house or that mate or whatever it might be. It's more, as we probably heard the expression, happiness is an inside job. That's really what it's about. So we're really working on developing and cultivating that sense within ourselves. And she does a really great job of talking about that. So you might check that out as well. Now, here are just some suggestions for daily practice going forward. We'll talk more about this in that 7th class. But from Jon Kabat Zinn, just note what's on your mind if you're no longer in touch with the breath, and without judgment or criticism. Just let that be part of your awareness in the moment. Where did your mind get distracted to? Be curious about that. And feature once again the breath and the body center stage. That's what's going to bring us back to presence. The body and the breath are always present, right? And then this is the important part. Repeat this a few million times. So again, it's the repetitions. It helps to keep in mind that good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, again, that's why I asked you to focus on those during the class. The present moment is the only time any of us are alive. Think about that. It's pretty profound, right? Therefore, it's the only time to learn, grow, see what's really going on, find some degree of balance, feel and express emotions such as love and appreciation, and do what we need to do to take care of ourselves. That's also pretty profound. That's a lot right there, right? So that kind of gets to what I was talking about in that previous slide about happiness. This is a path to finding that. And even though I've said this, we're not trying to achieve anything special, but it just keep at it is the point. Just keep at it. It takes a lot of practice, but you have lots of moments, and we can treat each one as a new beginning. And that's that same thing, we're going to lose our place. We're going to get distracted. We're going to find that our practice ebbs and flows, but it doesn't matter. Just keep coming back. Just keep coming back and beginning fresh with each new breath, with each new beginning. And this is what it really comes down to, that remember, the real meditation is your life and how you inhabit it moment by moment. So pretty cool stuff when you think about it. Jack Kornfield says it this way: we need to remember that where we are going is here, that any practice is simply a means to open our heart to what is right in front of us. Where we already are is the path and the goal. So we just keep returning to that presence. So, all right. So just as a reminder, this has the link that takes you to the page, the meditation page on the Carillon Wellbeing site, and you'll find all of the meditations there, with the exception of the rain meditation. That's actually a YouTube, but you can always go back It's not an active link, but all the others you'll find on this active link, the Carillon Wellbeing site. And then on the bottom here, if you want to go back to the mindful yoga links or the 10 mindful movements, those are there. And then this quote from, this is, and I'm probably not going to say his name correctly, but Ignacy Jan Paderewski, who is actually an orchestra conductor. And he says, if I do not practice one day, I notice it. If I do not practice a second day, the orchestra notices it. If I do not practice a third day, the world notices it. So again, just another kind of message and quote to try to help reinforce that message of how important practice is for us in this journey that we're on. So there are more videos, more readings if you want to go into them. They're on this page. And at this point, we're really done. So I'm going to ask two last things. Once we're done, I'll send these out probably tomorrow because I've got a pretty busy afternoon. So two last requests. I'm going to send you an evaluation for the class. So I'd love to get your feedback on that. There's be a link with a survey link so that you can do that anonymously. And then if you did that perceived stress scale, I'll send you a new one. I'd love for you to send that back because of what I did is I put together the class average of the people who did send it to me. And then if you do it again, I'll do that again and we'll compare the scores and hopefully we'll see a difference. And you might want to do that for yourself. What was your score at the beginning of the class and what's your score at the end of the class? Hopefully that's improved a little bit as well. So at this point, I will say thank you so much for joining me on this 6-week journey. I'll also say namaste and peace be with you. And please let me know if you have any further questions going forward. And I will send out that invitation also, but you might want to mark your calendar for that December 10th time period, but I'll try to send that out probably tomorrow so that you have it on your calendar. And I'll see you then. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording, and then if you have any questions, please let me know. So I'm stopping that right now.